Alright, let's talk a little bit about Forster dyes and their products. Now, first off, I have to say, I'm not even going to do a review because I'm very happy with the product. I don't have anything negative to say. Probably the only thing negative I could say is that they're a little complicated to use. Now this is a bullet puller. We've already talked about that. This is their full-length sizing die. One of the beautiful things about their products is that you can get your sizing die honed, custom, exactly to your chamber. And that's something I am going to eventually do. But for now, this is a full sizing die. It's spec'd out to SAMI specs, and will work with all of my Mosins. If you get one custom made to your particular chamber, well, it's only going to work for that exact rifle. This one is 7.62 by 54R FLS sizing die. It's a really nice gray finish. I love the locking rings. They're extremely sturdy. They're nice and big. And when you tighten them down, your die doesn't shift or change angles or anything like that. Something I noticed with the RCBS dies that I have been using. Alright, let's take this thing apart and analyze it. It's kind of complicated too. It's got quite a few different parts. The capping pin is separate. It comes in two. Kind of a nice thing. This is my expander ball. This is a 311. Well, actually, I measured 0.3095, but basically for 311 size bullets. And then this part right here, of course, threads off and is what tightens down onto your decapping rod. Something I really like about this die is that you can resize your brass without decapping, or vice versa. Now, one thing you'll notice between the lock ring and the actual shaft that threads into the die is that there's a rubber washer between the two, and this kind of basically makes the whole assembly float inside your die, and so it'll self-center itself. Forster dies are really well known for having very little runout on the case necks. Now, I don't have a runout measuring device yet. I want to get one. It's on my shopping list. Oh, there's so many things you can buy for reloading. An infinite amount that you can spend. There you go. Those are those components. This part right here is A10, the lock nut. Spin the lock nut. This part right here is the spindle bushing, B10. It does come all the way off. And then the decapping rod, they call it a spindle. It's part B10. And then the expander ball itself, they call it the easy out expander ball. This part number is E10. The lock nut for the decapping rod, that's called H10. And the primer decapping pin is just I. So once I'm going to get out my RCBS die, and I will compare with you the RCBS decapping rod. Now, with the RCBS decapping rod, you're going to notice that the expander ball is much lower on the shaft than it is with the Forster. There is a reason for this. The Forster one basically sits up higher, okay, so that as it begins to expand your brass, as it expands your brass, as it's being pulled out, it's doing it while most of the neck is actually still in the sleeve, okay? And this basically forces the expansion to be very straight, in line with the center of access of the actual shell. Alright? So you're going to get very little runout in the neck of your brass with the Forster die. Now, I will do later on a tutorial with the RCBS where you can kind of cheat this same process that the Forster die has, but it requires multiple steps, and it's a little complicated, but I'll do a tutorial on that eventually. But you can see here just the difference in size between the two. The RCBS one's quite a bit thicker. The RCBS one I have actually already bent just slightly. It wobbles just a tad bit when I rotate it in something that's trued up. The expander ball on the RCBS does come right off, but the decapping rod is a part of the actual entire spindle. This part right here is called the cross bolt die lock ring. Alright, here we go. This is the mother of all seating dies. Look at that. Whew. I like it. Alright, nice. Same cross bolt die lock ring. This thing has a lot more parts to it. First, the entire micrometer section comes off separately. There is a spring around the actual seating stem. Okay. I'm going to set these aside, and we're going to talk about the body. Because the body this is the most distinguishing part of the Forster die set. The only two companies that make them like this, that are big companies, is Redding and then Forster. I like the Forster one better though, because they actually have one of these available for 7.62 with 54R. None of the other companies do. Now, this part right here, I had to have it honed on the inside here, custom. And they did this for me for free in exchange for some information about Mosins, so that it would accept 311 bullets. Because originally these were designed to accept 308 bullets, but all the new ones from basically March and on that are produced are going to accept 311 bullets, and I will prove it to you. See right there, they will drop right through. Before, you would only be able to get a 308 bullet to do this, and if you have one that is older and only accepts the 308 bullets, you know, if you take a 311 bullet and just drop it in here, it won't go through. Okay, so that's something you'll want to check, at least for the first year or so, until all the older ones start getting cycled out and replaced by the newer ones, which will basically be good for either 311 or 308, because they basically only had to open this up about half a thousandth. I think it was 5/10,000ths. No. This right here is the sleeve, and this right here is the die body. This simply slides inside of this, like so. Alright, so let's talk about the micrometer end of it. The numbers are nice and big. They're filled with white now. I think the early ones were not filled with any white paint, but the newer ones are. To remove the seating stem, you can buy additional seating stems from Forster and basically have like either a smith, or you can do this yourself. You can actually hone your seating stem to fit your bullet exactly. This is something they've been talking a little bit about on AccurateShooter.com. I'm reading about it. In order to custom make one of these for your exact bullet, you would probably take a couple of bullets, put some lapping compound under there. I would suggest at least 200 grit, and you basically would lap this, and I would get that mouth basically to fit your bullet perfectly. Now, the nose is never touched by anything. As you can see in here, the nose never gets touched, which is what you want. You don't want your meat plate to be what your bullet is set to as far as seating depth goes. That would be inconsistent. You want your ogive to control your seating depth, and that's exactly what this seating stem does. Alright. Next comes apart the micrometer itself. There's a rubber O-ring right here, makes it kind of nice and smooth. And these are just hollow aluminum parts. And And so there you go. Those are all the components. Now let's put it back together again. Alright, there we go. All back together again. And function. Make sure this slides in and out. Now, you should clean your dies every once in a while, especially your seating die. Your seating die is an extremely crucial part of the entire ammunition loading process. I think I eventually will do a die cleaning tutorial. Alright, you will notice that there are two different ways to adjust your seating depth. The first one's actually to loosen the lock nut up here and to actually thread in and out your actual seating stem. Alright. The other method is to lock down the nut and then actually turn the micrometer. Okay. These are the two different ways to adjust the seating stem. Now, basically what you're going to want to do is find the ideal seating depth probably for your bullet or maybe your favorite rifle, and then what I would do is actually zero it out. So you set your bullet into your press, put the press all the way up, and then just start loosen up your seating stem and then just thread it down until you feel it touch the bullet, and then lock it at 0. Right there, 0. So let's say you want to start loading them 5 thousandths shorter or maybe 5 thousandths longer, then you can start doing that. So you can chase the lands of your barrel as your barrel starts to wear out and the throat starts to recede. Because that happens. It's called entropy. There you have it. I'm very happy with these dies. They come in a really nice case. I love the case, really. The case actually has a hinge on it. So even the case is designed to last a lifetime. Okay, got one last thing to say about the Forster die, and this is a money-saving tip for you. Alright, when you buy your first micrometer seating die, don't ever buy another one, even if you switch calibers, because all you need is this and this. Alright, just drop the spring. The only thing you need to change in order to change caliber is this right here, and of course the actual seating stem. Setting up your Forster full-length seating die, it's slightly different than any other die. Why? Because the expander ball is mounted so high it can act as a plug basically if you thread it up too far. And the results, well, the results aren't good, let's put it that way. Let me show you. You're going to get a piece of brass that looks like that. Alright? And you don't want a piece of brass that looks like this. The expander ball is actually plugging the neck, and so the brass could not flow up into the upper portions of the die, and so it just smushed it down into the shoulder. And I'm going to show you how to avoid that basically. And then thread this just about all the way down so that your seating stem is mounted deep into the die. Next, we're going to take the ram, you're going to set it all the way up and turn your die down until it touches. Then you've backed it off just a quarter of a turn. Then you're going to reach in here and you're going to tighten this. And then turn it back down, and then that's your depth, and it always stays the same. And then you're just going to push it all the way up. Now back at the top of the die, this is when we're going to start paying attention to this area again. So once we get back at the top, with this loosened up, you're basically going to unscrew, 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 unscrew. And what you're doing is you are raising the expander ball in the die with a piece of brass already in the die, fully extended. So the brass is all the way up in your die. You're going to extend this all the way up until you feel it stop, okay? And then you're going to turn it back one full turn. You go two if you want to be extra safe. And then simply lock it off. Like so. And now your Forster die is completely set up. Right here I have a loaded shell. This one's been set up to fit my cartridge perfectly. I seated it in a different die deep enough so that it's just 1,000th or 2 off the lands. Actually, it's 10,000ths off the lands. We put our loaded shell into the press. Then we take our full-length sizing die. And we're going to thread it in, thread it in, thread it in. About halfway. And then we raise our loaded cartridge. Well, you can do this with a dummy cartridge. And we're going to continue screwing this down. So what's going to happen here is as we continue to rotate this down, eventually the actual body of the die is going to come in contact with the ram. And then we'll stop. I've already got this set up. We turn this a quarter of a turn, tighten this up, turn this back a quarter of a turn. Then you loosen this. Okay, and we're going to take this and we're going to turn it down until we feel it stop. Okay, I've already got this set up. And we're going to have this, the micrometer section, set to 0. And then we tighten this back down. And now I can basically adjust 5,000ths in, 5,000ths out, etc. and so forth with great precision and great repeatability over and over and over again.